The American flavor industry now has annual revenues of about $1.4 billion. Approximately 10,000 new processed food products are introduced every year in the United States. Almost all of them require flavor additives. And about 9 out of every 10 of these new food products fail. The latest flavor innovations and corporate realignments are heralded in publications such as Food Chemical News, Food Engineering, Chemical Market Reporter, and Food Product Design. The growth of IFF has mirrored that of the flavor industry as a whole. IFF was formed in 1958 through the merger of two small companies. Its annual revenues have grown almost 15-fold since the early 1970s, and it now has manufacturing facilities in 20 countries. The quality that people seek most of all in a food, its flavor, is usually present in a quantity too infinitesimal to be measured by any traditional culinary terms, such as ounces or teaspoons. Today's sophisticated spectrometers, gas chromatographs, and headspace vapor analyzers provide a detailed map of a food's flavor components, detecting chemical aromas in amounts as low as 1 part per billion. The human nose, however, is still more sensitive than any machine yet invented. A nose can detect aromas present in quantities of a few parts per trillion, an amount equivalent to 0.00000000003%. Complex aromas, like those of coffee or roasted meat, may be composed of volatile gases from nearly 1,000 different chemicals. The smell of a strawberry arises from the interaction of at least 350 different chemicals that are present in minute amounts. The chemical that provides the dominant flavor of bell pepper can be tasted in amounts as low as 0.02 parts per billion. 1 drop is sufficient to add flavor to 5 average-sized swimming pools. The flavor additive usually comes last or second to last in a processed food's list of ingredients. Chemicals that add color are frequently used in even smaller amounts. As a result, the flavor of a processed food often costs less than its packaging. Soft drinks contain a larger proportion of flavor additives than most products. The flavor in a 12-ounce can of Coke costs about half a cent. The Food and Drug Administration does not require flavor companies to disclose the ingredients of their additives, so long as all the chemicals are considered by the agency to be GRAS, generally regarded as safe. This lack of public disclosure enables the companies to maintain the secrecy of their formulas. It also hides the fact that flavor compounds sometimes contain more ingredients than the foods being given their taste. The ubiquitous phrase, artificial strawberry flavor, gives little hint of the chemical wizardry and manufacturing skill that can make a highly processed food taste like a strawberry. A typical artificial strawberry flavor, like the kind found in a Burger King strawberry milkshake, contains the following ingredients: amyl acetate, amyl butyrate, amyl valerate, anethol, anasyl formate, benzyl acetate, benzyl isobutyrate, butyric acid, cinnamyl isobutyrate, cinnamyl valerate, cognac essential oil, diacetyl, dipropyl ketone, ethyl acetate, ethyl amyl ketone, ethyl butyrate, ethyl cinnamate, ethyl heptanoate, ethyl heptylate, ethyl lactate, ethyl methyl phenyl glycidate, ethyl nitrate, ethyl propionate, ethyl valerate, heliotropin, hydroxyl phenyl 2-butanone, 10% solution in alcohol, alpha ionone, isobutyl anthranilate, isobutyl butyrate, lemon essential oil, maltol, 4-methylathetophenone, methylanthralate, methylbenzoate, methylcinnamate, methylheptene carbonate, methyl naphthyl ketone, methyl salicylate, mint essential oil, neroli essential oil, nerolin, neryl isobutyrate, orris butter, phenethyl alcohol, rose, rum ether, gamma undecalactone, vanillin, and solvent. Although flavors usually arise from a mixture of many different volatile chemicals, a single compound often supplies the dominant aroma. Smelled alone, that chemical provides an unmistakable sense of the food. Ethyl 2-methylbutyrate, for example, smells just like an apple. Today's highly processed foods offer a blank palate. Whatever chemicals you add to them will give them specific tastes. Adding methyl 2-pyridyl ketone makes something taste like popcorn. Adding ethyl 3-hydroxybutanoate makes it taste like marshmallow. The possibilities are now almost limitless. Without affecting the appearance or nutritional value, processed foods could even be made with aroma chemicals such as hexanol, the smell of freshly cut grass, or 3-methylbutanoic acid, the smell of body odor. The 1960s were the heyday of artificial flavors. The synthetic versions of flavor compounds were not subtle, but they did not need to be, given the nature of most processed food. For the past 20 years, food processors have tried hard to use only natural flavors in their products. According to the FDA, these must be derived entirely from natural sources, from herbs, spices, fruits, vegetables, beef, chicken, yeast, bark, roots, etc. Consumers prefer to see natural flavors on a label, out of a belief that they are healthier. The distinction between artificial and natural flavors can be somewhat arbitrary and absurd, based more on how the flavor has been made than on what it actually contains. A natural flavor, says Terry Acree, a professor of food science technology at Cornell University, is a flavor that's been derived with an out-of-date technology. Natural flavors and artificial flavors sometimes contain exactly the same chemicals, produced through different methods. Amyl acetate, for example, provides the dominant note of banana flavor. When you distill it from bananas with a solvent, amyl acetate is a natural flavor. When you produce it by mixing vinegar with amyl alcohol, adding sulfuric acid as a catalyst, amyl acetate is an artificial flavor. Either way, it smells and tastes the same. The phrase natural flavor is now listed among the ingredients of everything from Stonyfield Farm organic strawberry yogurt to Taco Bell hot taco sauce. A natural flavor is not necessarily healthier or purer than an artificial one. When almond flavor, benzaldehyde, is derived from natural sources, such as peach and apricot pits, it contains traces of hydrogen cyanide, a deadly poison. Benzaldehyde, derived through a different process, by mixing oil of clove and the banana flavor, amyl acetate, does not contain any cyanide. Nevertheless, it is legally considered an artificial flavor and sells at a much lower price. Natural and artificial flavors are now manufactured at the same chemical plants, places that few people would associate with Mother Nature. Calling any of these flavors natural requires a flexible attitude toward the English language and a fair amount of irony. The small and elite group of scientists who create most of the flavor in most of the food now consumed in the United States are called flavorists. They draw upon a number of disciplines in their work: biology, psychology, physiology, and organic chemistry. A flavorist is a chemist with a trained nose and a poetic sensibility. Flavors are created by blending scores of different chemicals in tiny amounts, a process governed by scientific principles but demanding a fair amount of art. In an age when delicate aromas, subtle flavors, and microwave ovens do not easily coexist, the job of the flavorist is to conjure illusions about processed food, and, in the words of one flavor company's literature, to ensure consumer likability. The flavorists with whom I spoke were charming, cosmopolitan, and ironic. They were also discreet, in keeping with the dictates of their trade. They were the sort of scientist who not only enjoyed fine wine, but could also tell you the chemicals that gave each vintage its unique aroma. One flavorist compared his work to composing music. A well-made flavor compound will have a top note, followed by a dry down and a leveling off, with different chemicals responsible for each stage. The taste of a food can be radically altered by minute changes in the flavoring mix. A little odor goes a long way, one flavorist said. In order to give a processed food the proper taste, a flavorist must always consider the food's mouthfeel, the unique combination of textures and chemical interactions that affects how the flavor is perceived. The mouthfeel can be adjusted through the use of various fats, gums, starches, emulsifiers, and stabilizers. The aroma chemicals of a food can be precisely analyzed, but mouthfeel is much harder to measure. How does one quantify a French fry's crispness? Food technologists are now conducting basic research in rheology, a branch of physics that examines the flow and deformation of materials. A number of companies sell sophisticated devices that attempt to measure mouthfeel. The Universal TA-XT2 texture analyzer, produced by the Texture Technologies Corporation, performs calculations based on data derived from 25 separate probes. It is essentially a mechanical mouth. It gauges the most important rheological properties of a food: the bounce, creep, breaking point, density, crunchiness, chewiness, gumminess, lumpiness, rubberiness, springiness, slipperiness, smoothness, softness, wetness, juiciness, spreadability, springback, and tackiness. Some of the most important advances in flavor manufacturing are now occurring in the field of biotechnology. Complex flavors are being made through fermentation, enzyme reactions, fungal cultures, and tissue cultures. All of the flavors being created through these methods, including the ones being synthesized by funguses, are considered natural flavors by the FDA. The new enzyme-based processes are responsible for extremely lifelike dairy flavors. One company now offers not just butter flavor, but also fresh creamy butter, cheesy butter, milky butter, savory melted butter, and super concentrated butter flavor in liquid or powder form, and tackiness. Some of the most important advances in flavor manufacturing are now occurring in the field of biotechnology. Complex flavors are being made through fermentation, enzyme reactions, fungal cultures, and tissue cultures. All of the flavors being created through these methods, including the ones being synthesized by funguses, are considered natural flavors by the FDA. The new enzyme-based processes are responsible for extremely lifelike dairy flavors. One company now offers not just butter flavor, but also fresh creamy butter, cheesy butter, milky butter, savory melted butter, and super concentrated butter flavor in liquid or powder form. The development of new fermentation techniques, as well as new techniques for heating mixtures of sugar and amino acids, have led to the creation of much more realistic meat flavors. The McDonald's Corporation will not reveal the exact origin of the natural flavor added to its French fries. In response to inquiries from Vegetarian Journal, however, McDonald's did acknowledge that its fries derive some of their characteristic flavor from animal products. Other popular fast foods derive their flavor from unexpected sources. Wendy's grilled chicken sandwich, for example, contains beef extracts. Burger King's BK broiler chicken breast patty contains natural smoke flavor. A firm called Red Arrow Products Company specializes in smoke flavor, which is added to barbecue sauces and processed meats. Red Arrow manufactures natural smoke flavor by charring sawdust and capturing the aroma chemicals released into the air. The smoke is captured in water and then bottled, so that other companies can sell food which seems to have been cooked over a fire. In a meeting room at IFF, Brian Granger let me sample some of the company's flavors. It was an unusual taste test. There wasn't any food to taste. Granger is a senior flavorist at IFF, a soft-spoken chemist with graying hair, an English accent, and a fondness for understatement. He could easily be mistaken for a British diplomat or the owner of a West End brasserie with 2 Michelin stars. Like many in the flavor industry, he has an old-world, old-fashioned sensibility, which seems out of step with our brand-conscious, egocentric age. When I suggested that IFF should put its own logo on the products that contain its flavors, instead of allowing other brands to enjoy the consumer loyalty and affection inspired by those flavors, Grainger politely disagreed, assuring me such a thing would never be done. In the absence of public credit or acclaim, the small and secretive fraternity of flavor chemists praises one another's work. Grainger can often tell, by analyzing the flavor formula of a product, which of his counterparts at a rival firm devised it. And he enjoys walking down supermarket aisles, looking at the many products that contain his flavors, even if no one else knows it. Grainger had brought a dozen small glass bottles from the lab. After he opened each bottle, I dipped a fragrance testing filter into it. The filters were long white strips of paper designed to absorb aroma chemicals without producing off notes. Before placing the strips of paper before my nose, I closed my eyes. Then I inhaled deeply, and one food after another was conjured from the glass bottles. I smelled fresh cherries, black olives, sautéed onions, and shrimp. Grainger's most remarkable creation took me by surprise. After closing my eyes, I suddenly smelled a grilled hamburger. The aroma was uncanny, almost miraculous. It smelled like someone in the room was flipping burgers on a hot grill. But when I opened my eyes, there was just a narrow strip of white paper and a smiling flavorist. Food product design.